I have for a while had difficulty explaining to people why I view life logically. And this tends to be conversations that I have with particularly emotional people that cannot get out of their emotions, that often think to themselves, my goodness, I just need to be here in the moment, and that is all that matters. My ability to interact in that moment and be there at that moment is super, super important. Essentially, people that are incredibly mindful but are not at the same time, meaning they don't actually think about the situations afterwards too much or before. So the reason I've had difficulty trying to explain to these people is because oftentimes I have felt that my view of life as being transactional is not the correct view. And correct is all subjective. This is merely my opinion. Take it as you will. But it served me well, and I intend to continue to use it, for better or worse. Logic has a way of assuring us, and logic is something that we have to work on all of the time, because in life there can appear to be many, many contradictions. Growing up, I was always having conversations with my friends about philosophy, about life's existence, about people, about society, groups, you name it. I tried to have that conversation. And it's gotten me to a point in life where whenever I come across those topics and I can see that people haven't thought about them very much, I think to myself, my goodness, I've spent a lot of time doing this. So when it comes to logic, how do we improve our logic? How do we make sure that we are getting a more accurate, a more precise perspective, a more distilled view that only we can have, that only we can give? Well, reading to me is one thing, reading philosophies, but you don't have to read, in my opinion, really hardcore philosophers that think in very mathematical terms. You can. I probably should at some point to get outside of my comfort zone, but really not like dystopian novels, like fictional novels, science fiction novels, things of that nature. They have a lot of philosophy in them. And a lot of people that are doing bigger things in life, bigger things with their companies, bigger things in their businesses, their families, a lot of these people have tremendous philosophies too. And many of them might not be aware of them and might not flaunt them about and might not be like me and try to make videos and talk about it all the time. But they're there and they're grounded in tremendous logic. The reality is, if we don't have a certain amount of thinking that we do on the regular about our life, about the things that we're going through, about the things that we want, we're not going to live as satisfying a life. This might be subjective to you. You might think to yourself, hey, well, the person living in the forest and being in the moment, the monks, the Buddhas, the prophets of the world, these people were incredibly satisfied. How could you say that these people that don't think all the time can't be satisfied? My argument to you is that at some point, if not all of the time, these people are actually thinking. They are not necessarily a subject to their thoughts. They are not necessarily victims of their thoughts, but they are thinking. They are at peace with the thoughts that occur in their head, at the very least. There was something I came across recently that said, a lot of life is showing up, but a lot of life, in terms of getting what we want, is actually becoming someone that we want to spend time with. So if we spend a lot of our time running away from these internal monologues, if we spend a lot of time running away from awkward paradigms, awkward paradoxes that happen in our head, contradictions, if we run away from contradictions rather than tackle them head on, oftentimes we're not going to allow ourselves to get to a point where we know what we stand for, or we know what our values are. And if we don't know either of those two things, we're not going to know how to proceed in our life in a way that's actually going to be satisfying for our souls. So this becomes a spiritual point too, and why I've had a lot of difficulty trying to explain to people that are spiritual or emotional why this logic thing matters, why it matters so much. Because I am someone that is very emotional. I am someone that's very spiritual. And to me, logic has been incredibly therapeutic because it's allowed me to parse through the things, parse through the bullshit in life, parse through a lot of perspectives that perplexed me once. And then I started really thinking about them and trying to unlock their secrets, understanding, identifying what those perspectives are, what they consist of, and hopefully coming to the true conclusion of what their core beliefs are to allow me to come to terms with them. I made a video before on archetypes, the archetypes of people. A lot of understanding people comes down to how logical you are, because most people are not spending very much time thinking. They're not spending very much time, and this might sound like a really cocky thing. People spend a lot of time having thoughts. Don't get me wrong, we all have thoughts, okay? They occur all of the time in our head. To put those thoughts to work, to put them in the right places, to ignore certain thoughts, to efficiently maneuver through your mind, that is a skillful, an artful process. Because at the end of the day, you're going to constantly come across new stimulus in life, hopefully. You're going to constantly come across new ideologies. And it is your job as the driver of your boat, your ship, your vehicle, your horse cart. It is your job to kind of manage that terrain. And what better way to do it through experience, but also of foresight, which is a part of experience, of thinking to yourself, hey, this has occurred to me in the past. This type of archetype has come up before. I have heard about this particular concept multiple times before. Why is that? What is it in my life that connects these things? What is it in my life that proves these things true? Now we can get carried away. Frankly, maybe I'm getting carried away, right? There's plenty of people in life that have had logic that drives them to kill millions of people. There are plenty of situations in life that people's logic forces them to go above and beyond and make a drastic difference in the world. Fine. I am of the mentality that if you think and you get to a point where you understand your values well, I don't care what you do from that point on. Because frankly, at least you are not escaping from who you are. That, my friend, is why I've made this channel. That is why I make all of these videos and why I've dedicated my life to hopefully allowing people to understand this thing and how it relates to this thing. How very, very important that relationship is. And logic is something that grounds both of those. For instance, many people, and this is something I'm taking directly from Ayn Rand, many people don't believe that they exist. What does it mean to exist? Well, to acknowledge that something is there. Say, for instance, this door right here is here. In order for me to acknowledge this door, I need to exist. Does that make sense? I need to exist in order for that door to be acknowledged. Right? But now I need to figure out everything about that door in order to understand it. I need to figure out, what does it look like? What does it feel like? What is it attached to? Material, all of these things. Right? When I get an understanding of this door, now this door is part of my repertoire. Now, anytime I come across a door, I know that it's probably going to interact in that way. Existence, right? Our very nature requires us to have logic, to have the ability to deduce, to identify something and determine its nature, determine its ability. Without these things, it's going to be very, very difficult for us as complex human beings, as complex creatures on this planet, to go and do anything. The bare minimum being survival. But many of us don't function in that way. A door is a very simple example. But if I give you the example of how a country works, or how finances work, or how business works, right? These are all things that are identifiable. Fine, they might not be objects, but they're concepts. If we can't wrap our head around those things, how do we expect to manage any of them? How do we expect to fit into any of them? This may be a terrible explanation of logic. It's possible. But hopefully you get something out of it, because this also goes into your relationships, love, finding partners in life, finding crossroads, finding parallelism, finding camaraderie, brotherhood, right? Logic should be ingrained in all of this, so that we don't get taken for granted, so that we don't feel like we're getting less than we deserve, so that we feel like we're a part of a system, we feel like we're loved. All of these things are grounded in our ability to deduce, to identify something, its characteristics, and how it fits into our life properly. So if you got something out of this video, smash that thumbs up on my fellow philosophers. Subscribe if you haven't already. Smash that bell icon if you would like to see more of my face. And watch this video, where I talk about something very opposite to what most people would consider very opposite, at least to logic: spirituality. Very, very important in my life, and hopefully both of these would be very important in your life. So actualize your potential catalyst. This world needs you. Take care.